Gaurav, I am so excited about .NET 9.
Me too. And you know what? .NET Conf is about to start.
Now.
Welcome to .NET Conf, the biggest .NET developer conference of the year, and to the Microsoft campus right here in beautiful Redmond, Washington. .NET Conf is a celebration of the latest advancements in .NET, but more importantly, the millions of developers around the globe building, creating, and contributing to .NET every day. Over the next few days, you're going to hear exciting updates on .NET directly from the teams here at Microsoft working on it. But you'll also hear from community members who are building solutions and libraries every single day with .NET, and you'll get their insights. Our mission is to delight developers. It's to empower you to build the apps, services, and solutions that you desire with a unified world-class developer platform, amazing developer tools, and a thriving ecosystem. Since we talked last year, we continue to push forward on our mission with updates across all of these areas, all while working on the next release of .NET to make your every single day part of development even better. We partnered closely with OpenAI to launch the OpenAI library for .NET. We've made vast improvements to GitHub Copilot for developer productivity alongside Visual Studio and VS Code. We celebrated the official launch of .NET Aspire, hosted virtual developer events around the globe with hundreds of thousands of developers, and ensured that you had access to free training necessary to start your .NET journey or to learn a new skill on Microsoft Learn. Now, we love our community and the amazing ecosystem that we're building together. And NuGet is the home for library creators. And it continues to be the fastest package ecosystem growing year over year. There are now more than 400,000 packages for developers to consume, and they've been downloaded over 500 billion times. Just for reference, that is a 45% increase since last year. And our continued investment to make NuGet the most secure package ecosystem continues to yield dividends. We've launched new features for app developers and library creators, alongside key partnerships in the industry. So thank you to all of our creators building and contributing to the .NET ecosystem. .NET continues to be the most used and loved developer framework on the entire planet. In fact, on this year's Stack Overflow Developer Survey, .NET again ranked as the most admired developer framework. And at the same time, C# and ASP.NET Core took top spots in programming languages and web frameworks. We love your love for .NET, and we love .NET here at Microsoft just as much. And that is because .NET truly powers Microsoft at scale. Applications and services powered by .NET here at Microsoft are used by billions of people around the globe and serve up trillions of requests every single day. And teams here at Microsoft are adopting the latest version of .NET at a record pace. And they're seeing vast improvements in their apps and services. Well, what does this mean? Well, it means they're seeing a reduction in CPU and memory and processing time, all with faster startup and even more throughput. And it's not only teams here at Microsoft, but it's companies around the world that trust .NET every single day with their business. And you're going to hear from some of them today and tomorrow at .NET Conf about how they're evolving their business side by side with .NET. And all of this gets better today with the release of .NET 9, the most productive, modern, secure, intelligent, and performant release of .NET yet. And I could talk for hours about all the features packed into this release, but here are some highlights. First, developer productivity. It gets even better in this release with updates across the entire development lifecycle. We know that you need to build beautiful, modern, and secure applications so you can deliver great solutions to your customers. And we are fully committed to give you the tools and the libraries to infuse those applications with AI. And finally, performance. Our investment in performance spans all aspects of developer workloads, languages, and the runtime. Part of our mission is to continue to make .NET the most performant developer platform anywhere. And you just saw a few highlights on performance, but there is a lot more packed into this release. In fact, there are over 1,000 performance pull requests nearly across every aspect of .NET packed into .NET 9. And we can't wait to see the impact that these improvements have on your applications when you build them with .NET 9. Now today, you're going to hear about advancements across all of .NET, our developer tools, and how we're enabling you to infuse your applications better than ever with AI. Now to tell us more, let's head over to Maddie.
Thanks, James. It's another year, which means it's another biggest and best release of .NET yet. .NET 9 shipped today, and it's packed with new features that we'll give you a sneak peek of right now, and of course, go into more detail about over the next 3 days. But before we start, we wanted to take a second and acknowledge the thousands of contributions that you, our .NET community, has made to all of our repos and projects over the past year. We really feel like we built .NET 9 together with all of you. And so from the .NET team at Microsoft, thank you so much for everything you do to make the .NET ecosystem what it is today. And you don't stop at contributions. You engage with us on GitHub and on Discord and in issues and samples and blogs and live streams. And all of those things are so infinitely helpful to us and really shape the product. James talked about delighting developers, which to us means making sure you have the tools necessary to build modern apps that you want on the platforms you need across web, mobile, desktop, cloud, and of course, infusing them with a sprinkle of AI magic. As you'll see over the next 3 days, we've spent this release making improvements in the entire developer lifecycle, from fundamentals like performance, security, and accessibility to new features that make it easier for you to keep up with this fast-evolving world we're living in. .NET is really more than a stack. It's a set of building blocks along with world-class developer tools and languages to help you as a developer focus on what you do best, write cool apps. One of the ways we've combined the modern world with the fundamentals and productivity you need is with .NET Aspire, building blocks for .NET developers to support you as you create more complex and more delightful experiences for your customers. To talk more about Aspire, I want to bring in Damien, who's been working on the team since it started a year ago. How are you doing, Damien?
I'm great. How are you, Maddie?
I'm doing pretty good. Happy .NET Con.
Thank you. Thank you. .NET Aspire is a collection of flexible tools, opinionated templates, and curated packages for .NET developers. Aspire simplifies managing projects, resources, containers, microservices, and more at development time while you write code. Plus, Aspire gives you real-time insights into your app while you're actively developing it. No more pushing to staging environments or production to see how your changes play with the rest of your stack. We've worked with a bunch of popular cloud library and service authors to create integrations that simplify setting up and managing all the various resources we need to build production apps at scale, and to help you build secure by default apps in a world where cyber attacks just don't seem to stop. We've also worked with teams in Azure and AWS to simplify basic deployments to get your apps up and running and your fixes shipped to your customers faster than ever.
We built Aspire to help you during every step of the cloud development journey. Clone an Aspire-ified codebase, and you can immediately start debugging without figuring out containers, emulators, ports, random environment variables, all of those things that we all forget about. And then you can hop right into writing code, or fixing bugs, and testing it all real-time locally on your machine, automatically taking advantage of some of the great security and observability features in .NET, such as our built-in OpenTelemetry support, which a lot of people haven't seen before. And if you don't have an existing deployment pipeline or you want to streamline your existing one, you could use Aspire and the Azure Developer CLI to get up and running in the cloud with just 2 commands. Or you can use Aspire locally and not change anything about your existing deployment, just keep doing what you're doing today, but with an infinitely more productive dev loop. The best way to understand Aspire is really to see it in action, so Damien is going to show us what it's all about and finally get to some code in this keynote.
All right, let's start with the Aspire app host. The Aspire app host is a single project entry point to your entire application. It allows you to build up your distributed application using a familiar-looking API to add containers, projects, and other resources easily and configure their relationships to each other without needing to specify URLs, ports, or connection strings. Aspire takes care of all the details and ensures that the resources are injected with the appropriate configuration when launched, using the names that we see here that I've used in my code. So for example, This project here called Basket API, I've given it a friendly name, and I've said that it references a different resource called RabbitMQ. After launching the app host, we're presented with the Aspire dashboard. It presents a convenient right now view of what's happening in your application. You can see the statuses of all your projects, containers, and other resources in a single view and easily drill into details, including command line arguments, environment variables, and console logs for each of the resources that constitute your distributed app. Now, you might have noticed that some of these resources, while they were starting up, went through a waiting state before they got to the next step. If I look into the logs of this one here, you can see, sure enough, it says it was waiting on another resource to enter a healthy state before it continued starting up while I was launching my Aspire app. Aspire will ensure that these other resources that I've declared as being waited on enter a healthy state before starting up the resources with that declaration. Some of my container-based resources have been marked as persistent, and I can see that in the dashboard here with this little pin icon. The persistent lifetime will mean that these resources keep running between launches, so I don't have to wait for them to start up every single time. This can be really handy for big containers that sometimes take a little bit longer to start than others. You can also configure Aspire to use existing containers you already have just by specifying their name. Also in the dashboard, I can stop, start, and restart resources just by using these convenient buttons and menus from the dashboard. This can be really useful during inner loop scenarios where you maybe make a code change that you can't apply with hot reload and you want to quickly restart a project rather than tearing everything down and starting it all up again. Let's find the front end of my site here. I'm going to scroll down and we'll open up my actual application. So here it is. This is eShop. We showed this in .NET Conf last year. Yeah. So this is a nice continuity thing for this year. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try and add something to my cart. It says I have to log in. So let's go ahead and log in as Alice. It's my password, very secret down here. I'm going to add that to my shopping bag. It's in my shopping bag now. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this checkout. Let's go back to our Aspire dashboard now, and let's see what else we can learn about our application while we're running during the inner loop. If I go over to the left-hand side here, we can look at the traces view. Aspire enables you to see what's happening across your entire application via OpenTelemetry. Maddie mentioned this before. Maybe you haven't seen it. OpenTelemetry is a collaborative industry project to instrument, generate, collect, and export telemetry to help you analyze your software's performance and behavior. Structured logs, distributed traces, and metrics are enabled in your projects by Aspire and then pushed to and displayed in the Aspire dashboard. The dashboard's structured log viewer lets me see all of the logs in my application, going beyond console logs to show me very easily the real data that's behind those logs in a way that I can explore. I can click through each one of these logs here and see the actual data that comes along with each of these structured logs straight in my Aspire dashboard. The trace view lets me see the complicated nature of distributed actions that happen in my application. Right here, we can see a 10-second or 20-second operation. It's actually changing while I'm looking at it. That represents that operation I just performed, adding something to my cart and checking out. Each one of these individual spans that comes from one part of my application has details that I can drill into and shows me everything that's happening right now as I'm using my application during development. Finally, the metrics view exposes key indicators of your application's performance and health, including things like how many requests are currently running, how long is my average request duration, and so on. Now your application is speaking OpenTelemetry, it can easily be configured to export the same type of information instead of to the dashboard to any other monitoring system or APM system that speaks OpenTelemetry with very, very minimal changes. But how did all of this get enabled in my application? Well, that's thanks to Aspire service defaults. Service defaults come along with the Aspire templates, and it's a set of code that gets dropped into your application with sensible defaults to get you going with things like resiliency, the OpenTelemetry that we've just seen here, and also things like health checks so that I can see how my app is running once it's actually launched. So service defaults comes in as a class library, and the code is included in your application. It's intended for you to modify either on day one to set up something that your app needs from the get-go, or on day 100 as your app grows over time and its needs change. Other things that are enabled by service defaults include Aspire's service discovery system, which is what enables your applications to easily reference each other by the names that you gave them back in the app host, which we looked at before, rather than having to worry about addresses and ports and those types of things. Some of the traces that we saw in that view before didn't come from my application directly. They came from things I was talking to in my application. So how did they get in there? Well, Aspire also includes a set of things we call integrations. They're a curated set of NuGet packages that make it easy to integrate popular dependencies like databases, messaging systems, and cloud services into your applications. Aspire integrations come in two flavors. There are hosting integrations and there are client integrations. Hosting integrations are used to add resources to my app host. So I can bring in things like containers, cloud services, etc., other custom resource types into my app host project over here. In this application, we're using a number of different integrations. You can see that I've pulled in Redis, I've pulled in RabbitMQ, and I've pulled in Postgres for my database. Those were provided by packages that bring in those hosting integrations for Aspire. Client integrations, on the other hand, are used in my actual projects, my actual .NET application projects. In this case, I'm in the code for one of my ASP.NET Core projects, and you can see that I've used the RabbitMQ event bus integration that brings in the client library for RabbitMQ, but Aspirifies it. This has been enabled with DI integration. It's been enabled with observability so that logging and tracing and metrics show up in the dashboard, just like we saw before. Now, back on hosting integrations, they can do more than just make it easy to bring in a specific container. They can also make it easy to bring in companion developer-focused services as well. So for example, with the Redis service here, I can say things like with Redis Commander, and that will set up the very useful Redis Commander system and auto-configure it to speak to my Redis that I'm adding to my application here. I can do a similar thing with Postgres and say with pgadmin or with pgweb, which are other companion-type services targeted at developers that make my life easier as a developer. Lastly, we've been delighted to see you in the community building high-quality Aspire integrations for the services that you care about, and we think that these integrations should be just as easy to discover and add to your applications as those owned by us on the Aspire team. So with that, I'm very, very happy to announce the launch of the .NET Aspire Community Toolkit.
I'm so excited. The momentum around Aspire from the community has been honestly incredible. And so we're really happy to give you this toolkit as a place where you can contribute new integrations, like Damien said, for the rest of our ecosystem to find and use alongside the first-party ones. With the release of Aspire 9 today, we're also previewing one of our most requested features, Azure Functions support. So if you're using Functions, try it out, let us know what you think, and check out Safia's session tomorrow where she will show you all the details about this. In the last 6 months since we went GA, we've had teams both external and internal to Microsoft reach out to tell us just how much Aspire has improved their productivity. The Xbox team integrated .NET Aspire while they were tackling a big migration to the latest .NET and Azure Kubernetes services. And they told us it was a game changer for them because it tightened up their development loop and it let them see their open telemetry details right on their local machines instead of what they were doing before, which was waiting for deployments to finish and then going in checking that the logs look right and the metrics are visualized and the traces are connected properly. We also heard from Pedram, an architect on the new Microsoft Copilot, which you might have heard about in the past month or two. And his team rebuilt the Copilot backend from scratch in just 4 months using .NET Aspire. But I'll let him tell you about that.
Hi, I'm Pedram Rezai, an architect on the Copilot team at Microsoft. I'm excited to share how we used .NET Aspire to build a new Microsoft Copilot. Just 4 months ago, our small team of developers set out to rebuild the Copilot backend from scratch. Our goal was to improve performance, scalability, and reliability for millions of users worldwide. By leveraging .NET Aspire for our development process, we achieved remarkable results. The new backend is 3 times faster and significantly more efficient. We reduced our codebase to a fraction of its original size, while reaching feature parity with the previous version. .NET Aspire was instrumental in accelerating our development. Its support for microservices architecture allowed us to set up distributed services quickly and efficiently. Features like distributed tracing and integrated Docker support made our development experience seamless, enabling us to trace requests across services effortlessly. Thanks to .NET Aspire, we achieved over 5 nines reliability, crucial for a service as widely used as Copilot. For any .NET developers looking to build scalable, reliable services efficiently, I highly recommend giving .NET Aspire a try. It empowered our small team to deliver big results in a very short amount of time. If you can do it, so can you.
Thanks, Pedram. We love hearing all of the stories about how Aspire makes your lives easier, so try it out today. .NET Aspire 9 just shipped. It works with both .NET 8 and .NET 9. And for more details, you can come to me and Damien's session right after this keynote, where we're going to dive into more of it and show you some more of the cool stuff. We can't wait to see you reach all your aspirations with .NET Aspire. But now we are going to turn it over to Maria to tell us the latest and greatest for AI for .NET developers. I just caught up on a bunch of the sessions from .NET Conf Focus on AI in August, but I know things have changed a lot since then. So Maria, why don't you tell us what's new?
Thank you, Maddie. Hi, I'm Maria, a PM lead on the .NET team. Over the past 2 years, we have been dedicated to making it easier for developers to weave AI into their applications. We have provided learning material through samples on GitHub and tutorials on Microsoft Learn. We are simplifying integration into our ecosystem with our new library and collaborated with partners to build a vibrant community. Additionally, we've made it seamless to deploy your applications to the cloud with Aspire. So let's take a look at what we've achieved together. This year, we have seen teams across the industry leverage .NET to build amazing AI solutions, from consumer apps with Microsoft Copilot to developer apps with GitHub Copilot. .NET is at the core of these top-tier AI experiences. Our customers like H&R Block, Blip, and KPMG are all solving real-world problems with AI-powered technology built in .NET. So let's dig into an example. KPMG Clara was developed to enhance auditing and quality efficiency for 90,000 auditors using AI-driven insights. .NET enabled them to rapidly implement robust AI capabilities, all while being able to securely scale on Azure to meet their industry standards. All these solutions are successful because of you and the growing .NET ecosystem. We understand that to immediately benefit from the value of AI, we need to build a thriving .NET ecosystem. And we are thrilled to announce that our partner base has substantially grown this year, with both new and familiar names eager to build exceptional .NET experiences with us. Excitingly this year, we have also seen an uptake of .NET AI app usage, with Azure OpenAI reaching nearly 1 billion API calls per month, as well as OpenAI and Pinecone shipping their very first official .NET clients. Partners like Telerik, DevExpress, and SyncFusion are taking our smart component samples to the next level. The AI ecosystem is rapidly evolving, and our goal is to simplify and streamline AI integration for the .NET community. We are making this happen with Microsoft Extensions.ai. Developed alongside the semantic kernel team, Microsoft Extensions.ai provides a unified set of APIs to ease AI adoption into your solutions. Our library offers package authors and app developers a straightforward, quicker way to create .NET AI solutions using a common set of abstractions, standard middleware, and extensibility. And it's available for preview today. To delve deeper into this, I would like to invite Steve Sanderson.
Thank you, Maria. So yes, I'm going to show an example of how we can use the new AI abstractions to add some intelligent features to an application. And the app we're going to work on is this customer support application. So customers can submit product support requests, and then those messages go to staff who see a big grid of all the requests that are coming in. But you can see we've got a bit of a missing feature here. There's a column here called summary, and it's blank. So let's have a go at adding summarization to support requests as they come in. And the way we do it is not going to be very difficult. Actually, we're going to use this interface called iChat Client, and that's a new abstraction that represents any language model provider. So that could be OpenAI, Ollama, Gemini, Mistral, anything else. And it gives you a common programming model across all of them. So to do summarization, we could say something like this: summarize this conversation. Here's the conversation text, and we'll tell our chat client to complete based on that prompt, and then we'll get the result and save it into our database. So let's see if it works, shall we? We'll pretend to be a customer submitting a support request. Is this about a product? Let's say it's about tent or camping related stuff. This is semantic search. We'll give you a link to the code later. Let's say it's about this hammock, and I'm going to paste in my support message, and I'm going to put an absolutely enormous amount of text with all kinds of irrelevant information with my question hidden somewhere in the middle of all that. So now back on the staff side, because we've added that summarization feature, you see we get this nice little summary. Customer inquires about the suitability for overnight use, which is much, much quicker for them to read than this massive wall of text full of irrelevant information. So that's a pretty good start. Now let's do another thing. Let's implement this chatbot over here on the right and give it the ability to search product manuals to get information. So let's say we want to help out Hans here, who's asking this question in German, which has been summarized into English as, tell me what the Bluetooth pairing pin is. Now, I don't know the answer to that question, so I'm going to have to search the product manual. In fact, I want this chatbot to do the search for me. So let's have a look at the code inside this assistant here. And if we scroll up here, when you have one of these chat clients and you call one of the complete methods on it, you can pass chat options to it. And one of the options you can give is tools. And tools are a way for the language model to make calls back into your logic to get more information or to make things happen. And in this case, I've connected it to a C# method called search manual. And if we look at that, you can see it takes in a search phrase and it takes a product ID. And so we're going to do a database search based on that search phrase at that point, give it the database results back, and it will generate an answer based on that. So if I come back over here and I click, what does the manual say? Then it's going to actually call our C# method there. It uses this search term and it gets actual real information from our product manuals. So we can find out what the Bluetooth pairing is. And because we asked it to give us a citation, I can even click on this link and you can see it can take me into the product manual PDF and highlight the actual reason why it says it's that. So we can verify that it's correct. Okay, so we're off to a good start. But so far, we don't really know how this works behind the scene. Like, we don't even know which language model this is using. Let's see if we can find out. We'll go into the Aspire dashboard and into the list of traces. And you can see, if I go in here, that we've integrated iChat client and the other abstractions with Aspire. So all the telemetry data will just show up. For example, I could scroll down here and look at this activity, and you can see that this was a request that we made to a language model called Llama 3.1. So now you know what I was actually using on the back end there. I was using Llama, and that's running inside a tool called OLlama on my machine. You don't really have to know about that, but it's a way of running a language model locally and offline, and that's what I was doing. And if we scroll right down to the end, we can even use this new text visualizer here to see the full details of the prompt that were passed in. We can see what the user asked. We can see that behind the scenes, it chose to call this search manual, and here's the parameters it passed. So we get all this information, and you can use that for debugging or logging or whatever else you need. Okay, so now you know I was using Llama. But how is that determined? How do I change that? Let's say I want to use a different provider. Well, you probably won't be surprised to discover that this can be controlled using the dependency injection config. And I've got this helper here called use OLlama chat client. But one of the nice things about having an interface like iChat client is you can swap out the implementation for something else without making any other changes to your code. So now I'm going to use OpenAI with a different connection string. That's also going to be supplied by Aspire. So it's still all orchestrated by Aspire. But now with just that one line of code change, when I go back to my application, if I do this again, you'll see it will behave in just the same way. It'll phrase the output slightly differently because now it's actually using OpenAI on the back end instead of using OLlama without any other code changes. All right. So the last thing to mention now is, what is this pipeline thing? Well, we've tried to make it as flexible as possible for you, so you can plug your own logic into what happens when we call to a chat client. And we've got these built-in pipeline steps you can use as well, like we've got use logging, we've got use open telemetry, which is actually there on by default, so you don't have to call that. We've got use chat options, and then you can use that to set things like a temperature or some default tools that will be available globally, like that if you want to. You can even put in your own custom pipeline steps. For example, here, I'm going to say I want it to add my pipeline step. And you can use this to implement logic for things like timeouts or a retry policy or to block certain requests, whatever you want. Yeah, a facility that we've built in to try and make it as flexible for you as possible. So there you go.
Thank you for the demo, Steve. We are beginning to see developers leverage Microsoft Extensions.ai to accelerate their AI development. For example, Pieces. Pieces is an AI productivity tool for developers that has both VS Code and Microsoft Team plugins, which easily leverage Microsoft Extensions.ai into their SDK within hours. By adding this, it enhanced their long-term memory for their platform.
Thanks, Maria, and thanks, Steve, for showing us an AI demo beyond just a chatbot. There's a bunch more AI content at .NET Conf this week, so be sure to tune in, especially for Steve's session later today, deep diving into Microsoft Extensions AI. But we are going to get our heads out of the cloud for a minute and talk about the world of client app development. Microsoft invests in a bunch of different frameworks, from our native Windows UI stacks to the Blazor and the web. But today, we are going to talk about cross-platform with .NET MAUI. For that, I'm going to turn it over to the only person I know who makes worse jokes than I do, David Ortnow.
Thanks, Maddie. We're investing in .NET MAUI to provide .NET developers a cross-platform application framework. With MAUI, you can build apps with a single code base and project system to target Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android devices. Now in .NET 9, we've improved many of our controls, such as the collection view, entry, button. We've even added a powerful new control, the hybrid web view, to enable reuse of components built with React.js, Angular, Vue, really any JavaScript. And we've made improvements to app and view lifecycle. We've added Android and iOS platform updates. We've improved APIs for MAUI embedding, so much more. We're pleased to see that MAUI is being adopted across the industry at a fantastic pace. Since .NET 8 released last year, we've seen apps made with MAUI more than double in the Google Play Store. And overall developer usage of .NET MAUI has grown to an all-time high, 30% over last year. We could not have done it alone. With your help, we've merged more PRs, closed more issues than ever before. And I want to give a huge shout out to our top individual community contributors, Kubaflow, Marty IX, and AlbiRock87. Jacob, Marty, and Alberto, thank you so much for your amazing contributions. And thank you to all of our wonderful community of contributors. We continue to see a flourishing ecosystem around .NET MAUI with plugins, extensions, and controls. And they're coming from the community, from enterprises, and from our amazing component vendors. One of them is Syncfusion, and like us, they're seeing excellent growth with .NET MAUI. Recently, Syncfusion released the Syncfusion Toolkit for .NET MAUI. It's a set of free open source controls, and Syncfusion has long been a leader in UI components for .NET. This toolkit includes 14 controls, including multiple chart types, a carousel tab view, so much more. They're providing these open source controls on GitHub as well as a NuGet package that you can use in your projects. I've been using it. It's really amazing. Now, you may have also noticed an increase in activity on our GitHub from the Syncfusion team working in the open to improve .NET MAUI. We are absolutely thrilled to welcome Syncfusion as contributors to our open source project on GitHub. Microsoft, of course, welcomes all members of the .NET ecosystem to contribute to .NET, as it benefits everyone and creates a thriving developer community. Since July, the Syncfusion team has contributed a whopping 55% of all of our community contributions to .NET MAUI, as we partner closely with them to improve the overall quality and velocity of .NET MAUI. Now, we've heard from many of you for years that controls like these and libraries like the community toolkits are essential for building your apps. So in .NET 9, we've collaborated with Syncfusion on a new project template. It includes the Syncfusion toolkit for .NET MAUI, as well as the incredibly popular community toolkits for MAUI and MVVM. Let's take a look. All right, here I am in VS Code, and I've done a .NET new MAUI app, and I've included the sample content, which gives me all of that goodness that I just mentioned. So if we look at the community template that I created here, I've got data, messaging, models, page models, so MVVM and all the goodies here. And for the most part, it looks just like the template that you've grown to love. So some of the new things in .NET 9, main page has been deprecated. So now in my app XAML CS, I create a new window and I set the app shell. This was already happening for you before. We're now just revealing it to you because we now have a new title bar that you can take advantage of on desktop. Here in the MAUI program, you can see that I have initialized the MAUI community toolkit as well as configured the Syncfusion toolkit. So those are ready for me to use. I'm even taking advantage here in the template of the shell routing, which is part of the MAUI community toolkit. It makes it super easy to set up my dependency injection as well as name my routes. Let me go ahead and show you what this app looks like. I've got it running here on my phone. So I'm going to open up the Balance app, which is what I actually named the app. And of course, it looks beautiful in dark mode. And so the project is a to-do template. It is a to-do template similar to what we've had in the past, actually. You've got a beautiful chart now, though, at the top. I've got a list of projects that scrolls horizontally across the middle, and then I've got a giant collection of tasks that I need to get done, of course, this week. It looks even better in light mode. And so you can see that as I go into my projects, I've got Syncfusion controls lighting up my text inputs. I've got, again, that list of tasks down here. It's a really full-featured application. SQLite on the back end, Microsoft Data Library helping us with that. It's awesome. So I've celebrated the Syncfusion contributions. Let's go ahead and mark that puppy done. I've got a toast there, also coming from the community toolkit. Very nice. And up next, I want to update and demo the eShop app. So we've been showing eShop all day long. There's also a mobile component to it. Let's bring some .NET 9 goodness over there as well. All right, so now I am in the client app over here. And first thing we need to do, of course, is bring in the new goodies. So I'm going to go ahead and configure the Syncfusion toolkit. Configure Syncfusion toolkit. Boom, all done. No license key required. And then I come over and I want to add the collection view handler. So I mentioned we did work on the collection view. This is for iOS. We have a new implementation of it for iOS that is faster, but we need to opt into it until we really prove out and make sure it's everything we want it to be. So I did that in the template app. And of course, template apps are great for providing us with guidance. So let's come on back over here and let's grab this code. And then I'll come over here and add this to my MAUI program. Great. I don't need the shell renderer. I just need the collection view 2 handler for iOS and Catalyst. Highly recommend you check that out. Let us know what you think on GitHub. Next up, I need to come over here to my app XAML CS. I can already see that .NET 9 is telling me that the main page is obsolete. And of course, as good developers, we've turned on treat warnings as errors in this project. That's up to you to decide whether that's good for your project or not. So I need to make this adjustment so that I can continue on. So let's go ahead and grab this. This is the same bit we're going to use. I can get rid of this. And I'm now going to override the window creation. Create window. There we go. I'm going to create a new window. Oh, look at that. We're getting some help from Copilot. Let's go ahead and take the first bit. That's totally fine. And I'm going to pass this into the constructor. It's telling me that it doesn't know what this is. That's fine, but I've already got a local up here, so I can go ahead and do that. Now I'm good to go. That's as easy as it is to upgrade your main page implementation. Now, I want to show you what the app looks like before I end up publishing this, because we're going to make one more change. So if I come over to Android, this is the app as it is today. I can, of course, go in and look at my details. But let's go ahead and start this app over, because I want to show you what that very first experience ends up looking like. It loads in, I get my login screen, all good, but I want to look at my orders. Now, have you ever been on a train that has poor Wi-Fi or a hotel that has really bad Wi-Fi? You might end up seeing something like this. It takes a while for stuff to load in, right? Now, of course, ASP.NET's blazing fast, so I've added an artificial 400 millisecond delay to simulate, right? We can do better here. So as part of the Syncfusion toolkit for .NET MAUI, we have a control called Shimmer. What Shimmer does, if I come over here to the Mac Catalyst version of the sample app, I've turned on the Shimmer and I've left it on. It's this kind of a skeleton look that gives you an indication of what's going to load in once the data arrives. I want to take this Shimmer control and apply it to this screen in the eShop app so that we can get that goodie. This is actually coming from the profile view in this particular project. So, like before, let's go ahead and pop back over to the community template. And one place in which I'm doing this is right here on the task view. You couldn't see it in the app before because I ran it really fast, but once I enabled it, you can see it in the desktop app. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this over. And then when I come back over here to the client app, I can implement it, Shimmer. So I want to do a couple of additional things here that I didn't do before. I changed the is busy to be this. They have some pre-configured types in here, which I learned. You can provide your own custom template so it looks almost identical to what you're loading in, or you can pick one of the pre-configured ones. So I chose the type feed. And then I'm going to repeat 7 of them, so 7 items in the list. Arbitrary number, seemed to look good to me. So let's go ahead and do that. And then I need to close this off. Save it, and we are good. So I want to send this to Android. So I'm going to make sure I'm on the Android framework here in Visual Studio Code. Make sure that I'm targeting the right device. And let's rerun this and see the Shimmer in action. The namespaces for all of these things are very simple. It's all in one NuGet package. So you don't have to go looking for different NuGet packages. Ooh, it's building super fast. Let's go back over here. Watch it happen. So exciting. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? We've logged in, loads everything else up. We come over to orders. Look at that. Look at that little shimmer shining in. So a little bit more touching up and I can make that look absolutely amazing. But as you can see, in just a few steps, I brought over beautiful .NET MAUI 9 goodness, the new collection view handler stuff, the new main page update, super easy to get updated. And then I even brought over some new goodness from the Syncfusion toolkit for .NET MAUI. Now, our favorite part of the job is talking to you and seeing what you build with .NET MAUI. It's amazing how many industries .NET MAUI is making an impact in. We love working with you and couldn't be more proud of what you have accomplished with .NET MAUI. I want to share with you one specific example. Fidelity is a global leader in financial services. They've built their new Active Trader Pro platform using .NET MAUI, bringing robust performance and seamless cross-platform experiences to over 51 million customers. Let's take a look at how they are shaping the future of active trading with .NET MAUI.
Fidelity is a global leader in financial services, trusted by over 51 million individual customers and processing over 3 million trades on average every day. Our platform delivers the research tools and execution quality that customers depend on. Today, we're thrilled to share that our next generation Active Trader Pro platform is built with Microsoft's .NET MAUI framework. Currently in beta, this powerful platform is set to become our primary solution for active traders, bringing robust performance and advanced features. With .NET MAUI, we delivered the speed and reliability needed for streaming market data and high-volume trading, backed by the support of Microsoft engineers and the .NET community. This platform also scales for deeper third-party integration and future mobile expansion. We're excited to be part of the .NET journey and look forward to what's next for Fidelity's active trader customers. Thank you to the Microsoft team for their continued partnership and support. Later today, my colleagues will dive into the technical innovations that make this possible. Thank you again, Microsoft, and best of luck for a great .NET Conference 2024.
So as we've seen, the team and community have been hard at work. This is a stunning release with all of these highlights and so much more for .NET developers. Let's go ahead and throw it back to Maddie. Maddie, you still there?
I'm right here. Anything else you want to share with anybody before I let you go, Dave?
Well, be sure to check out all the client app sessions here at .NET Conf this week. And that's it.
That sounds good. See you soon. Now let's turn things over to the World Wide Web. ASP.NET Core is your full-stack web platform for .NET, providing everything you need to build modern web apps and scalable back-end services. To learn more about what's new in .NET 9 for web developers, let's hear from Safia and Dan.
Thanks, Maddie. Whether you're building modern web UIs with Blazor or providing access to back-end data with minimal APIs, ASP.NET Core gives you everything you need in a single, consistent framework, including high-performance servers, built-in security features, and excellent tooling. So, Dan, what's new in ASP.NET Core 9?
Oh man, there is so much that's new in ASP.NET Core in .NET 9. First and foremost, the team has been focused on quality and fundamentals. This includes extensive work on performance, accessibility, and security. ASP.NET Core in .NET 9 is built to help ensure that your apps are secure by default and are ready to handle even the most demanding workloads. We've also added a bunch of improvements to provide the best web development experience possible, including built-in OpenAPI support, lots of Blazor enhancements, and improved tooling and debugging. And when you then want to publish your ASP.NET Core app to the cloud, it's ready to go, thanks to expanded support for ahead-of-time compilation, as well as improved monitoring and tracing.
.NET 9 is the fastest release of ASP.NET Core yet, providing industry-leading performance. You get higher throughput while using significantly less memory, thanks to adaptive garbage collection. Blazor WebAssembly apps start up much faster, and Blazor server apps are more responsive thanks to WebSocket message compression. And all your static web assets are now automatically optimized with pre-compression and fingerprinting so that they can be efficiently downloaded and cached. Dan, can you show us some of these new features?
Absolutely. Let's go take a look. OK, here in Visual Studio, I have the .NET eShop application already loaded up. And we can see that it's already been updated to .NET 9. It's also using .NET Aspire for its local development experience. And over here in the browser, I have it loaded. It's been deployed to Azure Container Apps, so we can see how the app functions. All right. So if we go look at the front end of this application, the web app project, which is built using Blazor, and we scroll down here a little bit, we can see that this app is set up to use the new Map Static Assets API. Map Static Assets is a new API in .NET 9 that helps optimize how your static files are delivered from the server to the browser. It's a replacement for the old Use Static Files middleware. And what it does is during build and publish, ASP.NET Core will take your static files and find them in your www root folder, and then optimize them so they can be efficiently downloaded to the browser. You can refer to the optimized files in your Blazor code using the new Assets API. Like if you look over here in app.razor, we can see up here these CSS files are being referred to using this Assets API so that they are referring to the optimized versions. To see how that affects the app, let's go over to the browser and bring up the browser DevTools. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a cache empty and hard refresh. And let's look and see what's downloaded here. All right, so first thing I want you to notice is here's one of those CSS files. This is normalized.css. But you can see now it has a fingerprint in the file name. This is a content-based hash of the file. And by having a fingerprint for this file, it's now unique. So we can aggressively cache it. And we can also avoid loading stale versions of this file while it's in production. If we look at the size of these files, like let's take this webapp.styles.css. Looks like that file is about 22 kilobytes normally, but transferred it was only about 3.5 kilobytes. It's way smaller. That's because during publish, we actually took that file and pre-compressed it using Brotli compression to shrink it down as much as we can. And that also reduces burden on our servers, so we don't have to do all that compression work at runtime. All right, now what's really great is because these files have been loaded quickly and cached, when I refresh the browser, check that out. Look at all those zeros. Nothing needs to be downloaded now. Everything's been cached locally. These files are effectively immutable, so the browser can cache them indefinitely, and your app loads almost instantaneously thanks to these optimizations. All right, so that's some improvements to your static web app. Now let's look at some Blazor features. This app has an intelligent chatbot that's using AI services hosted in Azure. We can ask it things like, what's your best jacket? And it will use the AI services to look at our product catalog and come up with a response. This chatbot user interface is built using Blazor's interactive server rendering feature. We can see that in the code. Like if we go and look at the chatbot panel Blazor component, up here at the top, we can see it's using the interactive server render mode. That's going to set up a WebSocket connection between the browser and the server to handle all of the UI interactions so we get a great interactive experience. It will also pre-render this component statically initially to get HTML into the response and into the browser as quickly as possible while we're waiting for that WebSocket connection to be set up. Now, there's a little bit of a delay there between when it's statically rendered and when it's actually set up for interactivity. But fortunately, in .NET 9, there's a way we can now really elegantly handle that. Like if we look here at the code, you might have noticed this new render info API that's being used. So if the app is not yet interactive, so we got a little bang here, right? If not interactive, then we're rendering this placeholder content while we wait for it to be interactive. Similarly, down at the bottom in the form where we can send chat messages, we can see that we are disabling the send button on the form if it's not interactive yet. It's not going to be functional yet. And then it will be enabled once the component renders interactively. So if we go back to the app, we should be able to see that. If I'm really quick here, I'm just going to click and then quickly freeze the screen. There we go. OK, we can see that the pre-rendered content is now showing up. It's connecting to the assistant, and that the send button is now disabled. And then if I unfreeze it and let the component render, it gets the interactive rendered content. We can now interact with our chatbot. Cool. So those are some new features for front-end web development in .NET 9 with ASP.NET Core. Safia, do you want to show us some new stuff on the back end with APIs?
Yes, Dan. One of the big areas of focus this release was OpenAPI. OpenAPI is a popular standard for documenting REST APIs. And in .NET 9, we're raising its status in ASP.NET Core with the introduction of major updates to the Microsoft ASP.NET Core OpenAPI package. If we take a look at the code for the eShop application, we'll see two new APIs invoked. There's Add OpenAPI, which registers OpenAPI-related services to our DI container and allows us to customize our OpenAPI experience. If we scroll up, we'll see a call to map OpenAPI, which exposes an endpoint that will return our OpenAPI document in the JSON format. Let's take a look at this. There it is. This is the OpenAPI document representing eShop's catalog API. Now, this might seem a little underwhelming, but this document is the gateway to an ecosystem of amazing tooling around OpenAPI. Here's an example of one, Scalar UI. In this release, we worked with the Scalar team to ship a NuGet package that bundles their user interface for use in ASP.NET Core apps. I can install the scalar.asp.NET Core package into my application and use Scalar's map API reference call to expose the Scalar UI in my application. If we head back to that UI, we'll see that I'm able to see all of the endpoints in my application, schemas that are associated with my data models. I can generate code for a variety of different targets, from curl to Python clients to C# clients, and I can test out requests. Here I am going to send a request to the API catalog items endpoint in my API. We'll hit send and scroll down to view the response that we receive. Cool. Now, Scalar is not the only tool I can use my OpenAPI document with. For example, I can import that same OpenAPI document into a tool like Bruno to support testing my API. One of the things that I love about Bruno is that it exposes a lightweight scripting API so that I can programmatically generate data for testing. I've used it here to generate data that I will send to create a new item in the catalog. Let me go ahead and send this data in a request to my endpoint. And oops, looks like I've hit an exception. Lucky for me, this gives me the chance to show you some improvements to the developer exception page. There's a few stylistic enhancements and the new routing tab, which allows us to show information about the endpoint that was invoked and the metadata that's associated with it. Endpoint metadata is a bit of a first-class citizen in the ASP.NET Core universe and comes into play for a variety of features, from rate limiting to the OpenAPI support we just saw. And now it gets its own home in the developer exception page to help you when debugging. Now, let's actually debug through this exception here. I'm going to head back into VS Code, open up my catalog API, and set a breakpoint in the entry point for the handler that's invoked when I hit my API. I'll go back to Bruno and send another request. Cool. We've hit my endpoint. Now, I want to see what kind of headers are sent when the request comes from the Bruno client. Let's pop into the debugger and inspect our HTTP context, pop into the request, and into headers. Now, one of the things we'll see is the new dictionary item debug view in .NET 9. I've got a nice inline visual of the keys and values in my headers dictionary that I can look at a glance. This same UI will apply for other dictionary-based values in ASP.NET Core, like HTTP context properties. Now, there's so much more I could show you that I don't have time for right now, but be sure to check out our upcoming sessions where we'll talk about all of these features and more.
Thanks, Safia. Thanks, Dan. Like they said, there's a lot more going on this week for web developers, so make sure you check out all these sessions and you can find your happily ever after. Today is a celebration of the release of .NET 9, but the platform wouldn't be complete without all of the developer productivity tooling we have shipping throughout the year. Things like Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, and GitHub Copilot have seen a bunch of updates. And here to show you just how seamless some of these things have become is Felicia.
Thanks, Maddie. Hello, everybody. I'm really excited to show you all the improvements we've made to GitHub Copilot and Visual Studio for you, the .NET developer. GitHub Copilot is now more contextually aware. What that means is you get more accurate results. And on top of that, the results and the integrations in Visual Studio are smoother and better for you as a .NET developer. Now let's take a look at how that plays inside Visual Studio. I have open an eShop app, which is on .NET Aspire, a popular app that you may yourself have used. When I'm inside GitHub Copilot Chat, which by the way now comes inbuilt in Visual Studio, I can use the workspace keyword here, which allows me to use the relevant context of this eShop app. I have a ready prompt here where I want to understand from Copilot what the API endpoints for the various services are in this eShop. What Copilot does when I reference the at workspace is that it takes a look at all the available relevant files and creates a summary that I can easily consume. Here, it can show me that there's basket service, there are webhooks, and there's a catalog API, which all may be relevant as I'm making changes to my project. Now, what does Copilot know about the latest .NET Aspire? I'm super curious. So I'm going to ask Copilot, hey, GitHub, what are the special things about .NET Aspire? GitHub Copilot will index the information that is on our Learn documentations and give you the information that's easily consumable for you as you onboard to the latest .NET Aspire framework. Moving on to the basket service test.cs file that I have open here, I want to show you how Copilot completions gives you a really handy way to generate code quickly in your workflow and get you faster and more productive. But it does this with semantic awareness such that the types and signatures of the used project are respected always. Over here, I have a test method. I can see that Copilot is allowing me to just accept with one tab a new suggestion for a test that I have. I may tap to accept this method, and it is giving me a new test to check if the updated basket actually maps to what I expect. If I want Copilot to suggest a new method for me, I can again do so, and it will provide me another suggestion so that I can have more test coverage. But if I wanted to modify this available suggestion, I can always do Alt/ and pull up Copilot inline chat where I can ask it, can you also give me a test for when the basket is null? As I fire this off, Copilot is able to modify the existing suggestion that it gave me, and I can accept these results.
At GitHub Universe, we announced Copilot Edits. This allows you to compose multi-file edits directly to your code, and I'm delighted to show how this is going to be seen for .NET developers in Visual Studio. Here's a sneak peek for you. Now, I have the same eShop Aspire repo open, and just like you saw me, I use Workspace to explain in chat how and what this repo does. You may notice that we actually have a new button on the very top, which is for this compose feature, which we're calling Copilot Edits. When we click on that, Copilot Edits allows us to make changes to this eShop app that we can see on the right side. It develops a plan that will help you make the required changes across multiple files of your repository. You can see that once it develops a plan, it provides you a summary of the changes it's going to do and links the files in which the changes have been applied. You can click on that file, it will take you directly to the edit and the change inside your editor. You can view that inline and review each of these changes as they come. Over here, I may accept or cancel the change as I see fit. What's also interesting about Copilot Edits is that if there are changes that are applied over multiple files, Copilot allows you to go through these edits one by one. So over here, you see that I want to change the margin of my item and price, and they require 2 edits to 2 different files. I can cycle through these by just accepting or rejecting the edits as I see fit. And with that, I'm able to cycle through all the edits and see them in real time with the hot reload functionality. On the right, you saw that the actual margins of the watch that I was trying to change changed. This is the cool new Copilot Edits feature, which will be available to you soon in the preview versions coming to you in 17.13.
So go try the latest GitHub Copilot functionality in Visual Studio and see how well it works for your .NET workflows. Make sure that you keep up with the new preview versions so you can try the cool new features like Copilot Edits coming soon to you.
Okay, let's see if I can recap that whirlwind of a keynote. We've seen how .NET Aspire is changing the game for developers, making it easier than ever to build observable, reliable, scalable, and manageable apps. We've seen how we're partnering with industry leaders in the AI space to give you a new foundation with Microsoft Extensions AI to make it easier than ever to infuse your app with AI. We keep moving forward with our fundamentals across the board, thanks to .NET MAUI, ASP.NET Core, all of our developer workloads, and of course our programming languages. And finally, we've shown you some of the work going into our tooling to make you more productive than ever with Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, and GitHub Copilot. I'm going to go get ready for my next session, so let's check back in with James.
Thank you, Maddie, and to all of our presenters today. Today, what we showed you is advancements across all of .NET, our developer tools, and our amazing ecosystem. And what you've seen just so far is just a tiny bit of what's new in .NET. And .NET Conf is packed full of sessions that are going to go deeper on the latest features and enhancements. There is so much for you to explore and try out, and we can't wait. Now, Windows app development is near and dear to my heart, and Windows apps run best on .NET 9. Whether you're starting a brand new modern application with WinUI 3 and the Windows App SDK, or you're modernizing an existing WPF or Windows Forms application, with .NET 9, you'll have access to the latest features and OS capabilities, all while ensuring they're more performant and even more accessible than ever before. No matter where you're at in your .NET or cloud journey, we're here to help. Your existing applications can easily move to .NET 9. Leverage our built-in tooling to upgrade existing projects seamlessly. This will ensure that you're always up to date with the latest in .NET. And companies like Chevron Phillips Chemical are doing just that. They're rapidly modernizing with .NET, enabling them to build and securely deploy prototypes at scale. Now, talking about scale, let's talk about Azure, because Azure is ready for your applications built with .NET 9 and to take them and to scale them to unprecedented levels to meet your business needs. .NET 9 is available today, alongside updates to Visual Studio, VS Code, and the C# Dev Kit. We've also partnered closely with Free Code Camp to launch the foundational C# certification for new learners completely for free. And on Microsoft Learn, we just launched our brand new .NET Aspire credential to jumpstart your learning journey. We can't wait to see what you'll build with .NET 9.
Have a great .NET Conf.